I will start sharing my screen. First, the PACE application is the tool wherein we administer all project activities, and it's created within RH Marine, so you cannot find it within other companies. It's especially from RH Marine. It's still being developed, and it has over 20 years of our experience. You all have your workstation, you all managed to log on to this meeting. So you should have an RH Marine desktop, and you will find an icon to start up our Citrix environment. That's different, how do we say that, application? No, environment is better, where you can start. Oh, it's not private. Normally I started in a different way. Let's do it like this. You can start up the Citrix environment. You have to log on as well. And within Citrix, the PACE application is available. The PACE application is not available on your local desktop, so you always have to log on to your RH Marine Waves desktop. You will see more icons, but that's just because I logged on. You will see only this icon. So first you log on to the Citrix environment. It may be possible, depending on how you log on to it, that you need a token, and a token will be provided by you by our service desk. It's a tool, it's an application used on your phone, your company phone. I created a user account for all of you, and so everybody should be able to log on. During this session, if you want to, you can start up your own session, but you can also just view my demo and depending on what you prefer. If you log on to the Citrix environment, I will make it full screen. Hey, that's a bit big. Okay. In your start menu, you will see what is available to you. It's depending on your user account, but you all should have the entry under the P for PACE. I have more entries, but you will all have the basic entry PACE. It starts up. Is everything visible to you?
The PACE is starting up, yeah, you can see.
Yeah, okay. It was a big screen. For me, it was over 3 monitors, so I narrowed it down now. If PACE starts up, it will automatically, you will be automatically logged on with the same account as used on your machine when starting up the laptop. Well, this is PACE. And PACE looks very simple, but there is a lot of information in it. It contains over 20 years of data of all the projects we managed. I will first show you a little bit of what you see here. The navigator, just like when you use the Windows Explorer, it will work with folders, and you can use the plus signs and click it open and go down, down, down. What is different? You cannot change it yourself. It's just the structure of the database of PACE. So you cannot change the name of this. If you open it up, you will probably see not as many companies as I see here. First, what is a company? We arrange our projects, and since you will all be working for RH Marine Netherlands, you will at least see this company, and you will not see this company, for example, because it's another company, physically another company. It's situated in Sliedrecht, and you will not need to see any of their projects. So you will only see companies you have access to. It's just a container for projects of RH Marine. And I created a test project for you as well that is available in the test and training company. And you will later find out how to get to a project. If you click open a company, it will show certain folders. It doesn't matter which company you open, all the folders you see are the same names. So it's very logically arranged. Every company has the same folders, and the first one is projects. So if you want to find the project you will be working on, you go to the company the project belongs to, then you go to the project folder, you open it, and then you will pick it from the list here. So you will need to know the project number. Well, that's easy to remember, since you will be working on it every day. Projects, what do you see here? You see a difference in color. In PACE, if you do not have access to a company, or at least if you only have read rights like this, you will see a lock on it. It means you can see everything in it, but you're not allowed to change anything. If it's in black, you have at least some rights, some access rights or modification rights. So within PACE, there are different levels of authorization. Projects. First, if you click a folder on this side, you will see all the projects there are. So I can also browse through it. And I can see, this company did this project, this project, it's for the defense, it's the main contractor, this is the project manager, it's active, etc. You can see details and you can put filters on it. This works a bit like when you are working in Excel. You can use a filter. So if I want to see, for example, this project manager, and I right click on it, I can set a filter and it will show me all the projects belonging to this project manager. Can put another filter on. So in the datasheet view, the way it is called when it looks like an Excel sheet, is called datasheet view, and you have the details of a lot of, in this case, projects, because I'm in a projects folder, and you can add filters. This filtering, if the screen looks like this, datasheet view, you can always use filters. The application is built in Access. It's it belongs to the Office family from Microsoft, and you can therefore also exchange data with copying and pasting. I cannot show you everything that is possible within 2 hours, but if you get the global idea of the intentions of PACE, then that will be enough for today. So if you click on a folder, you will see everything what's in the folder on the right side. If you want to see something specific, and I'm now going to browse to a specific project I want to use as an example for this demo. And you can also type just like how it works in the Explorer, nothing new there. So I type in my project number and I will go immediately to that project. If I enter, I activate it. And in this case, I select a specific project. On the right side, I will get the details of the project. So I can see, yes, this is a project belonging to this company. Okay, that's where I started, so that's very logic. This is the project number. This is the name of the project. Maybe an abbreviation. Sometimes we do have those. The project manager. And now I'm going to tell you something about navigating and the specifics of the coloring and the underlining. If something is blue, you can click on it. It means the data can be blue or the background can be blue. Here you see that's only the data is blue. You can double click on it and you will get the details in a separate page. Here you see you are now on page 1. If I double click on it, I will get the details of this project manager and I will see his login name, all his account details. But what is very handy if you work on a project that maybe maybe started a few years ago, you can also see if the person is still active. When did he last log on? So 9th of August. I think he's on holiday because he's certainly working here. And I can also see he still has access to the database. In PACE, you can always see who entered some data. If there is a document in PACE, you can see who created the document. You can see who last updated it. That is for almost everything that is in PACE. Devices, cables, cable types, whatever. I want to close this page. And menus in PACE, you activate by right-clicking on the item. So in this case, I want to do something with page 2. I right-click on page 2 and I say close this tab. I go back to page 1 because there's no other page to go to. So blue, you can double click, and in this case, I would get the details of the company. Project number, you have to have at least a project number, so that's a mandatory field. The project name, same, you always have to have a project name, and you have to have a project manager and a status. So there's not many statuses for projects. Either it's active, and when it's no longer active, we move it to the archive, and you can still access the data then, but we make it also read-only if it's in the archive company. And if it's hidden, well, you won't see it anyway, so you will never see anything with a status hidden. I can see it, but that's because of my access rights. Like I said, you can always see in, and that will be in a screen like this, so in a detailed view, who created this, the username, who created something, and when it was created and when it was last updated. This is in almost every detail screen on the bottom. In a detail screen, you also have most of the times there are separate tabs, and you can browse through those, of course, by clicking on it. And these are all the details of the project in general. You will have yeah, little to do with it because that's more of the project manager's domain to make the settings for the project. What can be very useful is this one. If you are working on a project and you find out that you do not have enough access rights, so you need to ask somebody to give you more access rights, more roles, you can always ask somebody who is mentioned on the user management tab. These persons are allowed to give you additional roles, additional privileges. So if I see here, these persons have can manage authorizations. Pick someone you know, because there are also persons like the CEO. He doesn't know how to give you any more access rights, but he is allowed to do so. So not only the project manager can grant you access or give you access rights, he can also delegate that. Within PACE, we authorize on the project level. So you can have more access rights for one project than for another. But you can always see all the projects within the default company. So if I go back to the company level, within this project, you are allowed to see all the projects. The same is for the archive, the service company, and the training company, and the others. You will not have access unless you work on a classified project. All the classified projects with special restrictions are contained in this company. So we are very eager to grant as less as access rights as possible. So you first select the company your project is situated, and within the projects folder, you go to the project you will be working on. Was the one I was selected. In a detailed view, you can always see who changed the data or who created and changed the data. If it's underlined, you have to fill out that field. It's mandatory. And if it's blue, you can double click on it. If you want a menu, you use your right mouse button to click on something like in the top, or on a folder, or on a specific project. There are certain functions in the menu. The menu, which functions are in the menu, is depending on what you click on. So it's context dependent. If I click on a build number folder, it's now almost the same, but it varies what you see in the menu. PACE is not a 2D, it's not a 3D application. We have other applications that are used for that, like Inventor, ePlan. No, not ePlan, AutoCAD. But in PACE is a database just containing all the relevant information with regard to the configuration of the project. So if you want to know how the boat will be built, the vessel will be built, whatever, you can find everything in PACE, from documentation, cables, devices, articles, and I will explain you during this introduction in basic how and where to find what and how you use the navigator. The navigator is very straightforward. If you open a project, again, all the folders are the same within each project. The same as with a company, the structure of the navigator is just the structure of our database. I will give you a global idea of these folders and what you can find where. First, let me start with ERP projects. It's not so very interesting, but if you, for example, have to fill in your timesheet, you will need an ERP number. In this case, it's the same number, but it can vary. It could be another number. So it's we have two systems within RH Marine, two basic systems. PACE for the project relevant data, everything with regard to the configuration of the project. And you have our ERP system or our Navision system, which is used for all administrative functions. It's a bit simplified expression like that, but for example, if you want to purchase something, you will need a purchase order. That is typically something that will be done from the ERP system in Navision. So basically, you are either a PACE user or a Navision user. But this is a reference to our other system where you can find purchase orders, etc. If you forget it, fine, no problem. Build numbers. What is a build number? It's possible to build several ships at the same time, and PACE supports that. That means that an engineer designs a system once, but if you have to build 3 ships, you have to repeat all construction activities for each ship again. So in this case, if there's only one build number, there's only one physical ship that needs to be built. If there are more than one, if there's more than one build number, then you're going to build more than one ship. And PACE supports that. And of course, you can use the design for all build numbers. Systems and locations, I will treat them a bit the same way. Systems, you can have your lighting or your propulsion or whatever sort of system is on board of the ship, where you can imagine that if you look at lighting, a system lighting, then that will be overall on board. Everywhere there is lighting in one way or another. So a system like that will be all over the ship. If you look at locations, that's really a specific location on board of the ship. An engineer will think in designing a system. And so he will work from a system number. Well, let's stabilize a system, whatever. So this is the total list of all systems within the design. There's quite a list. This is again the datasheet view in which you can see all the systems because I selected the folder. You can navigate also to the end by using the record navigation buttons. And you can here see there are almost 200 systems. Within RH Marine, we don't use our own system numbers. We get a list from the yard, and that's the list we use as well. That's very easy if you communicate with the yard. If you discuss system 861, you will always be talking about the internal drains. It's very easy also with exchanging data. So this is a unique number for this system. The yards usually have their own lists of system numbers. So the stabilizer system. So if a system engineer is working on a system, he will go in base to this system and starts entering data from there. If you are working on board of the ship, you will always be working in certain locations, depending on where you are allowed to perform certain activities. So for somebody working on board of the ship, it's much more logic to have a look at the data from a location view. I will be working on the bridge. Which devices will be on the bridge? You go to the location and you find the bridge. I'm not sure which number that is, so I just click one. In the laundry room, well, both raster will be more interesting, I think. So they will be looking from a location. The big strength of PACE is that it doesn't matter where you enter the data. If you have, for example, and I'm going to show you that, I go to the system, I open the system, stabilizer system, I go to my list of devices, I can see which devices belong to this stabilizer system. 30 devices in total. But if I have a look at this device, I can now see the details of the device. It also has a location number. That means this device belongs to the stabilizer system, but it will be situated in this location. That means in PACE, I will go back to this detail screen later on. If I go to this location, I can also double click it because it's blue. Hey, this is strange because it's now opens in the same screen. That's not what I intended. (317E1). Go to the location. What did I say? Well, it doesn't matter anyway. All the devices I will see in this room, the devices, will have the location number 3318. Like you see here. The system number can be different, doesn't matter, but they are all situated in this location and therefore shown in this location. If you go to a system, all devices that are in this list will belong to system 328. So depending on what data you entered, you will find the record you entered into PACE at several different places. I will later give you more examples on how that's working. Is the global ID clear of if you enter it once, you will find it in several several different places within the navigator. That's the whole idea of what I'm telling you here. So the system engineer will work from a system. Let's now have a look at what he will enter. First, also the system list is the list of the yard. That's the same thing for the location numbers. We use the numbering of the main contractor. Fire detection, also a system that you will find items all over the ship. What do we have within the container system? There we have devices, distributed devices, explain that later, cables, distributed cables, extra needs. You can also enter extra materials you will need for this system, like iron construction materials, for example, documents, for example, all cables and devices, how they are connected for a system. Index list, a total list of documentation that can be delivered to a client. Verification matrix, all requirements that are related to the system, and subsystems if there are any, if we use it. I don't expect you to remember this all, but just know that every system has the same folders. First, let's have a look at a device. Hey, again, different coloring. Here you see it's green and it's ticked, and here you see it's gray and it's with a black cross. Why? Let's have a look what's in the detail screen. An engineer will enter data on all devices belonging to this system. Copy pasting is also a possibility. Within a datasheet view, if you keep in mind which fields you at least have to fill out, so the mandatory fields, you place your columns in the same order, you can copy paste from and to Excel. Main panel fire detection. Everything we need to know about this device is basically here. You see all the underlined, everything you have to fill in. This is the unique ID of a device. What does it mean? We always start with the equal sign, system number, and another slash, but how do you call it? Not a dash, not a slash, separator, and then the number of the device. So we can have, this will be the unique number of this device. It will be on a nameplate when it goes on board of the ship, and we will find all our data concerning this device by looking up by the unique ID. Here you see it belongs to system 344. That's why it's shown within system 344. All devices here have 344. And this is its unique number. It will be filled out with an extra 0 to make it look nice. Modification code, version number. So there has already been a change once. Location number. If you want to know what the location number means, you can double click on it, but you can also click open the list. That's the wheelhouse corridor. So the device will be situated there. And you close the list by clicking on the arrow again. Delivery demarcation. who is responsible for this device. In this case, it's RH Marine. You will also find in the other older projects different abbreviations for RH Marine, like EMO, but that's just because we had a lot of name changes. It has to have a name. Well, okay, here. And then article code, that's interesting. What does that mean? I'll explain later. I first go through the other fields. For an article code, if your customer has a specific number, you can enter their number here as well. Status. Status is always very important to monitor progress. In this case, for an engineer, there are not many statuses. Why? You're either finished or you're not, and there are two more options. They don't need it any longer in the device, and then you can put it on withdrawn. So everybody will know, yes, we told you we have a device, but no, we don't need it anymore. It's on withdrawn, and that's why it will show like this in a navigator. None if you start, it doesn't have a status yet. Released if you're finished as an engineer, and on hold if you are waiting for information, for example. In this case, it's released, so all the information was entered, and then it means for the engineering, it's sort of finished and is ready to be ordered whenever it's needed in the planning. Sometimes, if you have, for example, a bridge, several monitors can be built into the bridge. Here you can enter another device number by selecting a system number and a device number, so you know they are connected. So when it's connected to each other, we speak of a built-in connection. That means if two devices are connected to each other, one is built into the other, it will always be in the same location. It's very difficult to build it into a device that's situated somewhere else. So it's physically impossible. Other thing, it can have an interface with something. And that means that interfacing, you have a sensor, but what does that sensor do? It monitors whether a pump is running or not, or a door is closed or not. So you have the sensor and what it is looking at. For build number, I leave that for now. This is just a global ID. If it doesn't have electric, it's my doorbell. If you have electrical connections, then you expect cables to be running from or to that device. It's very rare that we have devices that do not have cables, but it happens. If they know exactly where it is situated, they tick this box. Well, a lot of detailed information. Let's just 1 second. Hallo? Zet maar in de hal. Sorry for the interruption.
I have a question regarding all these informations. Can this all these fields can be also imported from an Excel list?
Yeah.
Maybe there is a case that we get it from a third party supplier, a system or something,
Yeah,
and they provide us.
Yeah,
Okay.
it already happens. So we can sometimes we get a list from several yards, and we can also import it, and it's called an exchange specification. It's special functionality that needs to be set up with functional management, like me, for example, or one of my colleagues. Then you really have an import function, and it's more complex, but if you just copy paste, that's possible as well, as long as you meet the constraints of the database. So if you have to fill in a device name, for example, here you have a device name, it's underlined, you need to fill that in. If it's empty within your Excel sheet, you cannot copy. Yeah, you can copy, but you cannot paste. Paste will not accept that data. But if you have a long list of devices, cables, or whatever, copy pasting is possible. But exchanging information often happens on a regular basis and will be handled in a different way by importing it. So what I wanted to tell you about is an article code. Here you have an article code, and what does it mean? The other fields basically only tell you it's a main fire panel, detection panel. But as you can see, RH Marine is responsible. So it's very well possible that we assemble this device by ourselves. Normally you can add all your information to this device, like the dimensional drawings, your parts lists, everything will be in PACE. But it also happens that maybe there is a second main panel fire detection. Well, maybe it's whatever. If there's more than one device created the same way, designed the same way, then you would have to enter that information another time for the other device. So this is one device, and there's another device, E102, and that is the same. So that's why we have an article code. All information will be added to this article, and we connect the device to that information by entering the article code. So if I have a look at this article code, I double click, opening on a separate page. Then I go to the article. That's just another folder within the project articles. And I can here see main panel fire detection. That's the article code. If I open this folder, this node, we call it mostly in the manuals, then you see a folder devices. If here, this device has a relationship with this system, so I find this device within this system. This device has a relationship with a location. So if I go to location number 4751, I will find this device. If I go to article code, this relationship is also there. If I go to this article, I will also see the devices that have a relationship with this article code. So that is how the navigator works. It can be more than one device, but all the information, that's for example, if you have some, lighting, then there are more than one, there's always more than one same armature or whatever. Here you see there are two. One is withdrawn, but okay, that can also be a list of maybe 100 of the same built devices that are assembled in our own workshop. So you have a relationship with this article code, and the article code has all the documentation, parts list, etc. But it can be connected. There can be more than one device that has a relationship with. So if they start working on it in the workshop, you will have maybe 10 devices that look exactly the same, but they will get unique by adding a nameplate to it. This nameplate, this will be on one nameplate. So, will be in on board of the ship will be placed in this location, and there's another one exactly the same, L0101, with a different nameplate in another location, but they will all be made the same way in our own workshop or ordered the same way. That's possible as well. We don't have to make it ourselves. So that's a very important thing for the engineer. If you have to design something, not the system itself, but a device, then you use an article code to connect all the information to. There's more information about this device. You don't have to remember everything now. You will get to know the details once you start working. Information was entered by this person in 2017 and this person, and updated it on. So these persons you can always ask, well, can you tell me more about it? If you're working on an old project, you can always see the previous colleagues that worked on that project. There's much more detail about the device, namely where will it be situated on board of the ship, and that is very important because we also do cables. If you want to know how long your cable needs to be connecting one device to another, you have to know where both devices are situated as accurately as possible, because everything, if your cables are too long, that's a waste of money, but if they are too short, you have an even bigger problem. So we want to know as much as possible, and we know quite a lot here. So in this case, we also exchanged information with the yard about 3D positioning devices on board of the ship. Just, yeah, again, an idea of what information PACE contains. Extra information, history, also very important. You can always see what's the history of this device. That means all changes made in status, for example. The first time it was released in 2018, then he said it was ready, and then it was set back in status, and then it was released again. So, but this can be very important information. But then, if you have a look at the device, the properties, you will see it has a version BA. I'm now going to show you what it looks like if you enter a new device. If I want to enter a new device, I will need my menu. And so I click with my right button on the folder, and I pick the appropriate option from the list, that is create. You see that the list is much longer here than it was when I showed you before on a system. That was only a short list about this long, and now it's this long. I say create. PACE tries to help you as much as possible. Why is there already a system number? Because I'm adding this device to the folder devices within a certain system. So I am already working within system 344. So PACE expects me that this device will be for this system. So I enter a device. Well, this will be the number for the device. And now PACE automatically knows what the calculated ID will be. It will an equal sign 344 separator E1234. I just started, so the first version, first modification code will be AA. That's normal. It's coming from the Navy or whatever, but AA is what we start with for cables and devices. Documents is a different thing. There we start with 1.0. Face needs to know where this device is going to be located, so I pick a location from the list, and then it expects that by default devices will be the responsibility of RH Marine. Description, whatever, of all the device. Is it of a certain model? Well, I can select here also the L. And then I have my second main fire panel detection panel. And so I can fill it in. And here you see, because I'm the one logged on, it will be created with my name. Am I going to save changes? No, I'm not. What else do we have within a system? Distributed devices. Oh, what is that? If you have a device, you start with a version AA. Once it is released, it is final for the engineering, and when it's really needed and they start ordering things, or construction will start working with this, needs to start working with this device on board of the ship, the information will be distributed. And that means you create a distributed device. It means you make a copy. I will show you how it works. This is normally done by the construction team. You right click on it. It's something in the menu. And then you say distribute. It means that you provide construction with information based on this build number. So I say I'm now working on this ship. So it's intended for this ship. If you have more than one ship, you have to order it the next time for the second ship and for the third ship. When do you want to have it? What is initial its status? Well, maybe I just already ordered it, so I can say I ordered it. Okay, I'm not going to do that because it's a live project. But I will show you what it will look like. A distributed device is a copy of the device, but the information is frozen. Here you have the E100BA. That's the one I already had a look at. All the fields here, almost all of them, are gray because construction doesn't decide what sort of device, what the details of the device. They just make sure the device is going to be where it needs to be. So they cannot change they cannot decide to put it in another room. They cannot decide that it will have a different article code. That's up to the engineer. Therefore, everything is gray and cannot be changed. They just have to make sure that the way it's designed by the engineer or is entered by the engineer, they have to make sure that this will be realized on board of the ship. And they do that in different steps. Well, maybe they say, oh, okay, it's now, I just received it yesterday. It's now available at the construction site. They can set the status to the construction site, and then the next person who's going to need that information will know the device is physically present at the construction site. So they know they can put it on board of the ship. So you don't have to use all statuses. You just use statuses as suits your process. Here you see that a distributed device, the number is basically the same, but the build number for which boat it is intended and which version it is, and this is finally what is going to be installed on board of the ship. Now, because the device is distributed, you can no longer change details. The engineer cannot change anything without consequences. For example, if he now says, I want to change the location number and I now put it on the bridge deck lobby, PACE immediately will let you know that there are 18 cables connected to this device. That means that every cable needs to be measured again, because if you put a device in a different location, maybe the length of your cables is no longer sufficient. Just main logic. If you change it now, the version will raise, and also on the cables there will happen something. So PACE alerts you what the consequence is. You are allowed to make this change, but it will have consequences, and PACE will do that for you as much as possible. But of course, you have to use your own logic as well to oversee the consequences. So distributing, that's what we do with devices. You make the copy, it will turn up in the distributed folder, and there it will add a build number and a version number to the distributed version. Here you can also see that is ticked and it's green. I hope you can see it. That will mean they are finished constructing. The construction is ready. So it is by now connected. It's on board of the ships and all cables are connected to the device as designed. So we can exactly monitor what needs to be in what system, which devices belong to it, which cables belong to it, which extra installation materials belong to it. Is everything distributed? Is everything made available to the construction party? And what is the progress? And is it already installed or is it only ordered? We all monitor that during the whole project. That's the strength of PACE. And of course, what is very important is that you enter your information once and you can find it at several places within the database. You can find it within the system. If it belongs to the system, you can find it in a location. If there is any relationship, you can find your details, your data based on the relationship. I suggest we take a small break. I know it's very tiring to have only look at your screen. Shall we get back at 3:15?
Okay.
Okay, see you in 10 minutes. Everybody present again?
Yes.
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 Present.
Okay. I didn't hear it from Devish, Emmanuel, and Linda.
I'm here.
Okay. All right, let's continue. I now told you something about devices. The main items are, the devices, cables, and documents. So I will tell you some more details about those, and I cannot tell you everything today, and it will be already a lot of information. Like we have devices, we also have cables. Well, let's have a look at a cable. Normally, these are drawn in ePlan and then imported in PACE. So this is imported information most of the time. And I can also see that if I go to the details, because this box is ticked. That's always if information is imported, then the replicas tick is on. You cannot manually put it on or off. It goes automatically with the import. So you don't change this data in PACE normally. You only add information to it, but basic is coming from basis is coming from ePlan. So you import it and then the data will be in. Also, it has the same ID. It has an equal sign, a system number, a separator, and a unique number within the system. So this number can also be in a different system, but the combination, this is the unique number. Onboard will be on the cable. Not system number, so the basics for the ID. Version AA, RH Marine is doing it. Yeah, you don't need a certain description, possible, but not necessary. It's not underlined, so you don't have to fill it in. Cable type. That is important. You always want to know what cable type to use, how many core does it have, what's the diameter. So you always select a cable type. Well, let's make a short side tour, do a short side tour, and go to the cable types. Within your project, you have systems, articles we had a look at before that's connected to devices, and here you have cable types. So at the start of a project, you decide which cable types will be used, EMC, free wires, and all the details will be entered once. This will be the cable type, overall double shielded, the diameter, properties, impedance, weight. Also important to know what is the total weight of cables on board of a ship. Also important to know what dimensions of blocks to be used when you have to close a penetration in a watertight frame. Whatever. All details of the cable type entered only once. But like I told you before, if there is a relationship between the cable and a cable type, you can also have a look at the cable type and see how many cables of that sort of type, cable type, there are. In this case, only 4. You will have a look at the cable type. Oh, that's why I was here. This page. So this cable type maybe has more cables to it. Enter here, and you can also find it later on this cable underneath the cable type. If there's a certain number the yard uses for this cable type, you can use it. Statuses, different, more complex than with devices. At first, the engineer decides what sort of cable type to use, the ID of the cable, and from to where it is running. So you can only create a cable if your devices are already in PACE, because you cannot select a device if you did not enter the data before. Logic. Once that has been approved, so it's checked and that's okay, then comes the measuring. I know for now for Linda that's important because she's going to do cable, wire, the pooling, etc. The routing of the cables, I must say. So once you know what cable type and from where to where it runs, you start measuring your cable, and you do that by giving it a cable route. This is a very specific specialism. It's sort of engineering, but also sort of construction. And I'm not going to tell you too much about it. If you really need it, then you get or a separate training, or you will get trained by a colleague. There is a drawing this cable is situated on. This is the E-plan drawing it came from. If it has a cable route, you can find all the details here, where it starts, how long it is, where it's running from and to. And on board of the ship, we know exactly where all the cable trays are situated. So if you know the cable trays, you can, just like when you enter in Google Maps where you want to go from to, you will find yourself a route and know where to take an intersection. And then finally, you will know exactly that your cable needs to be this long. So the more accurate you are with everything, the less waste of cable you have, and it will be long enough as well. But what does it also mean? This cable is running from this device. So if you look up this device, you can click in the cable in the device number. There is a relationship between the cable and the device. So if I have this device and I go down one level, I can see what cables are running from or to that device. So it doesn't matter if this is the from device or the to device. If I have a look at this cable, at these cables, then you will see that this is the from or the to side. In this case, this device 0553 is here is the from side, and here it is the to side. Doesn't matter. It will be connected to this device. Close. So this is about cables. You can see who entered it, who updated it. Default, you can see who made changes to it. But going back to the status, first it needs to be checked. Once that is final, then you start measuring. You don't want to start measuring, it's very time consuming when at least the basic data is not approved. So status is important in progress. You can also see that it is imported from another source, in this case A-plan, E-plan, and the separation. Sometimes you have to use different cable trays to run the cable. Cables need to be distributed as well to make it final and to make the data available for construction. And also here you have, if the cable is has a green tick, it means it is connected. So that means both sides of the cable. First, the cable has been installed using the route. In this case, there's no route to the cable. And then you connect it to your device. And once that is all done, then you have the status connected. The fields are gray. It's also data for construction. So all they do is make sure it happens. They change the status every time they have done some activities concerning this cable. They can put in a remark, okay, but they cannot change the data basically of the cable. This one isn't ticked green. That means it's not connected yet. What is it? The two side is connected. So only one side of the cable is connected. The two side is connected. So it means this cable is connected to this device, but not to this device. So we monitor in detail our activities. That also means it's very important that when you work in construction, everything you do, you have to put in PACE. Sometimes we say PACE is the truth. As long as you enter it in PACE, everybody will know it and everybody will know the exact status of the project. If you want to pull cables or install devices, you have to know which devices are already installed and which still have to be done. So updating information on a daily basis is very important. What else do we have in a system? Devices, cables, distributed ones. Extra need is the same like devices and cables, not used very much up so far, so I will skip that for now, but documents are very important. And you will see there are, in this case, documents that are, this folder documents is underneath system 252. That means that all these documents are related to system 252. If you have a look at the documents of system 250, you will see all these documents are related to system 250. That's how PACE automatically organizes all its information within the navigator. Documents. You can have many sorts of documents, and like you have many cable types, you have many document types, and the document types are defined within the project as well. You have to get to feel yourself familiar with the different types of documents, or sometimes you just have to look what is appropriate for the document you are working on. There is a basic list with T numbers. That's some sort of general used document type list. So it's not thought of by RH Marine. And if you have a look at the documents within a system, let's go back to a folder documents here. There are in total 6 documents. A T002, what does that mean? What sort of document is it? Check the list. It's a list of documents. So that's a total list of all documents. Yeah. Connection diagram. How cables within the system are connected. A document coming from ePlan. And that's what you can see here. Some documents have a paperclip. That means there's a separate file attached. Some documents do not, like this one. To make it easy, you can make a difference in internal documents and external documents. And what do I call then an internal document? all the data you need in the document is in PACE, and you can ask PACE, make that document for me. And sometimes the document can be a data sheet for a specific article. Then you get your document from your supplier, or you get your document from another application. And then it's an external document. The data is not in PACE, but you will need it in PACE. So you want to add it to your configuration, and then you can check it in. And checking in is not very difficult. I can show you a basic example of how you can add a document to PACE. I go to my Explorer, I select a certain document, doesn't matter what it is. And I want this to be in a document folder here. So I drag it, I drop it. You see the plus sign underneath my cursor, and I drop it. And then PACE starts saying, you have a document for me. Please registrate your document. So enter the details you need to know in PACE, and then you say what category, what document, or what sort of document type is it? Now, this type of documents, I can add a title and a subtitle. It's a document not delivered, maybe by the yard. And it's maybe have a status. Just for now, I need to remove it right away because it's a live project. This is the registration. And this is the checking in. Do you also want to add that document to PACE? Yes, I would like to. That was successful. Okay. And now I have the document. Linda van der Blink, 1 September, 1st of September. I just entered this document. And it has an attachment to it. If you have a look here, check in out, you can see that the document I just selected within the Windows Explorer, and it was checked in by me on this date. We will have training material to go into more detail. Now I just want to remove it. Are you sure you want to remove it? Yes. One document and one file. The document is the registration and the file is the attached file. Okay. And it's gone. That's one way. You can also do a check-in here, but it's the fastest way to use drag and drop to create or to add a document to PACE. So
can I have a question?
Yeah.
Is there any limitation of what kind of format for these documents can be, or what PACE is able to accept? Is it PDF, Word, or are there no limitation? It can be anything.
It can be everything, but there is a limitation to the file size, and I believe it's 200 MB.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure about the limit, but we know if it's bigger than that, transferring may cause damages to the file.
Okay, thank you.
A document has a version. And if you distribute it, so the cables and devices have AA, BA, CA, it automatically will raise your version if you make changes. But documents have other version numbers that is numeric. And if you distribute it, it will show up in this folder. In this case, you see no build number. So a document can be used for any build number. But if you order a cable, it's for a specific build number. So if you build more than one ship, you can always use the same document on how to connect a device, but you have to order your devices separately. So IDs of documents don't need the build number in it.
Can I ask a question, Linda?
Of course.
The version number of documents, is that the version number which is also on the document itself when you open it? Is that the same number or letter?
It's most logic that the registration is in line with what you check in. So if the first version you receive is a 2.0, then register the document as the 2.0 version. That's more, yeah, you can change the version at any time as long as it's a unique version. So if you start with a new document, if you say create document, it will automatically have here 1.0. But if the document you check in is a 2.0, make it 2.0.
And if I receive a document which has a revision letter of AA?
That's possible as well. Yeah,
okay.
You can. Normally what PACE automatically suggests is numeric. If I say create, it will automatically give you 1.0. But if that's not suitable for you, then you can change it. If it automatically needs to raise the version, then it will go from 1.0 to 2.0. But if that's not what you want, you change it to match your needs.
Okay. Thank you.
We want as less as possible. PACE wants to help you, but not to decide for you what it needs to be. So you can change as many as possible. But if you distribute your document, if you already had a 1.0 distributed once, you cannot use the 1.0 again, because every version you distribute, that's for a cable, that's for a device, if you distribute that version will be maintained forever unless you really delete it. So you can always look back. And that's also very nice because some documents, and that's best way to show you. I go to a certain document type. Let me see if I know it by heart. Document types. How to connect a cable to a device. That is a connection sheet. And I believe that's a 2. Is this the right one? No, it's not. I know if I have a look here. If there's a template for the document, then that tells PACE how to create it. T049. So either you can check in documents or PACE creates them, and that is depending on how the document type is created. Use a template. Okay, PACE make it for me. If this is empty, then you can check in a document. If I have a look at a created document, if you right click on a document, you can preview that document. A preview will show up in the footer. This is a document PACE created. I will zoom in so you can read it. Well, the preview you can all read, I suppose. This document has not been distributed, so it's not a final document. It's final when you distribute it, then you make it final. It has 3 pages. It is a document how to connect cables to this device. So here in the top, you will see this device as a junction box for the indication lights. Yeah, there's nothing connected to that. But here you see there's a cable. belonging to system 222, version AA wire 1103. It has 3 cores, brown, black, and gray, and it is connected to the terminals to these terminals, the brown to this one and the black to that one. So this information is entered in PACE, and therefore you can ask PACE, make this document for me. So a lot of information you enter will be later on used to create documents and will be used on board of the ship by the mechanic to install the device or to connect the cable, whatever you want. Once your document is final, so the information is okay, it has been reviewed, then you can distribute it. And there are not many distributed documents of this type. So that means in this project, they are still connecting devices or engineering. View this document. This document is distributed, so it has been made final, and this document can be used. It's a different document, it's not from the same device, but here you can say this cable and how it needs to be connected. There's no longer the preview sign here because this document really can be used to connect the device. Of course, it should be the latest version. But it's also very nice because this is all coming from PACE. If you have several versions of the same document, so if you have a version 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, you can also use a compare functionality. Let me see why do I have a new version, what has changed. And it will show you in yellow markings the changes between the 2 documents. All the data is in PACE. You have frozen more than 1 version. You can ask PACE to show you the differences between the several versions. Let's have a look at the time. We are almost now 18 minutes away from the deadline. So let's have a short look at what sort of folders we else have. Like I told you before, it's only a global idea of what you can do with PACE. There's much more to it than you first see when you look at it. It looks very simple, but it isn't. Mail in, mail out. You can register emails you received with documents. You can drag a whole email to a folder from your inbox only if it's related to the configuration, so not all mail needs to be in there. And then you can easily enter the information you want to share with the project. Here is a paint specification that's necessary. Okay, so he put it in. There's a document attached to it. So this is the paint specification. It's an MSG, so it's a message. It's an email received. That's why it's coming in, mail in, and it's now entered as project data for everyone available. Mail out. PACE contains many documents. All engineering documentation is in here. Let me show you. Sidestep. I go to a different tab. We haven't been there yet. I want to make a selection. Selection is the only place where you can see all records of a certain type. So if I want to see all my devices, not only the devices within a certain system or within a certain location, I can see that in the navigator easily by clicking on a location or a system. If I want to see them all, I go to devices and I say all. So what do I want to see? I want to see the devices. What is the root? What is the basis? My project number, layout variant default is always the same, and all. Then I know immediately, I go to my last records, that there are over 17,000 devices here. I can do the same with documents. These are documents, not distributed documents. It doesn't matter. And you see here that there are over 7,500 documents, a lot of documents. Why would you want to do something? Because you can easily set filters to find your own set of, let me see how many junction boxes there are, for example. Just give an example. You can also copy paste if you want to do something with it in Excel, just once. So many documents are in there. That means that if you have an obligation to send documents to your supplier, to the yard, whatever, you can send documents from PACE to somebody, and you can use mail out. So if I have a look here at mail out, there has been an email out of a mail out to OceanCo. And I can see if there have been sent any documents with it. Yes, these 4 documents were sent to the yard, and I can see them from here. So you can start, if you should really want to do so, I can do here my documents. So selection, make a basic query of the data which is in PACE. I find all my documents. I want to send them all. Possible. That's not normally what you do, but it is possible. You can here say output them all, and I can output them all by printing them, by saving them to my desktop, because I go on board of the ship. I want to take them with me. I can send them in an email, or I can upload them to an FTP, whatever, and I can make that output official by registering it in PACE. Then everyone can see that, for example, production documents sent to the workshop is nice for somebody else to see that has been done. So register it and create a mail out and send the documents. Should I send output all documents, and I should do this, then an email. It's not necessary to put all these documents in the email. Why? PACE will only send out documents that are distributed. I can start from my documents, fine, no problem. But then it will look, I have this document. Has it been distributed? No, I don't send it. This document, has it been distributed? Yes, 3 times, okay. What is the latest version? 301. Then it will send only the latest version. So PACE tries, you can do a lot of bulk actions in PACE to make your job more easy. So the first rule of getting to know PACE, if you have questions, if you think you might be able to do it more easily, ask your colleague or ask me, or find the manual. I will show you the manual. But we have 20 years of experience put into this tool. It looks simple, but it's not. And therefore, there are extended possibilities for almost every process that is done during the build of a new ship or even refits. Back to the navigator. Sections, this is the part where all the the cable trays are entered, and also the relationships between the intersections is that called. So you have the cable trays, but where do they connect and where do they not connect? And based on all the information entered here and the connections between other sections, PACE can find a route of a cable and tell you exactly how long it needs to be. It's possible. Document types, I told you documents, folders you will find everywhere. But if I click here, this is directly underneath the project. The documents shown here are always related to the project. Underneath a system, it is related to that system. Software, if there is software on board of the ship that we generated, it will be very nice to also check in software. So a service engineer that goes on board of a ship is able to find the right version to, for example, change parameters in a system or whatever, to make it available for everyone. I/O. All control and monitoring information is also in PACE. Well, not every project does it, but it is possible. And therefore, we can also use information. If I push a button here, the light will turn on there, and that information can also be transferred and used to generate software. So there's very complex information about I/O and processing in PACE as well. Exchanging, importing data from several yards. We can create an exchange specification, not used on this project, but next boat, the I-722, it is already in use. Users, who has all access and with what access rights. So Rietveld, I don't think he's retired by now. Well, has been done and doing some work. I can also see what access he has. Some people have a lot of access rights. If you do something in PACE and you are not allowed to, PACE will say you cannot do that because you do not have the role items, for example. And you need that authorization to do the change you want to do in PACE. And you can ask for it. Requirements and issues are also separate workshops available that we will make a calendar soon when it is available, so you can prescribe yourself to that training. Requirements, all requirements can be entered in PACE and be related to, so you can check if all the requirements are met, and too complex for this basic introduction. Issues, also very important. If you have to make a change to your configuration, you want to know why, and you want to be able to control it. So it can be, for example, the client has a change. He says, well, I want a bigger jacuzzi on board of the ship. Then you can make an issue and assign actions, what needs to be done to realize it. And therefore, on several documentation, you will see everywhere, that document needs to be changed, that documents need to be changed. So issues and actions are used to make controlled changes in your design. If you have a review and somebody has a remark to it or finds something that's not correct, you can use an issue to state why the review wasn't okay and what needs to change. It's a control mechanism. You're also quiet.
Everything is clear.
Then it's
Good to know.
okay. Yeah.
Carefully listen.
Well, after we close at 4, I will be on air for a bit longer for the one who wants to still have some questions or want me to show something more. That's possible, but after 4 o'clock I will close the recording. Searching, you can also search. For example, you know there's a generator, but you don't know where to find it. You can just say device. Default layout variant is always a default, and you type in generator. Well, which one do you want? Is it this one? I click it. And here the device will be shown. No, that's not the one. Maybe this one. Ah, that's the one. You can make a change and skip to the next one. Should you have, for example, an Excel list and you have the IDs of the devices in Excel, you can just copy from Excel, paste the ID, do a search, and you have it. Make the change you need to do and go to the next one, paste it. That's more easy than going in a navigator from system to system, unless there's another logic connection. If they all of the same article code, then you start with the article code. There you find all the devices grouped together. Many ways to do things. You just have to find out what works best for you and what works, yeah, the quickest, the fastest, whatever. One more nice thing. If, and that's most projects don't use it, but it is possible. If you use XYZ coordinates and you have your deck plans, drawings of the decks available in PACE. PACE can make a very easy, simple, you know, I select the deck plan of the owner's deck. I select devices. And now I have to zoom in so I can make a bit more space. And I can zoom in with this plus button. It's not very, very sophisticated, but it can help you. It's not going to be any bigger than this. But if I select one, it will turn up green. What is it? It's an electrical watertight sliding door. Nice. So it gives you an idea of all the equipment situated on the owner's deck based on XYZ coordinates. Oh, chips. Sorry, we have 1 more minute left. Afterwards, I will send you the link to the manuals and the number of your own test project, but I forgot one very important thing. Reports. Reports you will find in the navigator by right-clicking. Appropriate reports will be in the menu. But where to find what report will be not so easy in the beginning. all reports are here. A report is just a list of the situation now in your database. So if I want to pull cables on board of the ship, what I have to pull today will be less or more tomorrow, depending on if cables are, if you connect your cables today and or you pull your cables today and you change the status, tomorrow they will be no longer on your pull list because you already pulled those cables. So it's working documents and information documents, and almost all reports have extended possibilities to set filters to select why you don't want a list with 10,000 devices. It's just too much. But you can, and in this case, it's a cable pull list. You give a pull list to the people on board that pull the cables. If the cable is already installed, I don't need to see it. That work has already been done. Maybe only cables that run to or a certain location, or maybe all the cables that run through a certain location, or cables where you start pulling the cables from this point, whatever you want, and then you can create a list. I have no idea if something is going out of it, but fire detection. Yes. It looks very complex if you've never seen a pull list. It tells you exactly this cable, this type, this length. It now has a cut request. So it needs to be cut first before you can pull it. And if you start pulling it, you start here, this device, this route, and then you end at the smoke detector technical space. Documents have a version, and reports just give you the information as it is now. And what is in your database can come out of it. Well, for now, this is the basics, a little bit of the basics. I stopped the recording.